What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the TCG Empire YouTube channel. Today we are taking a look at Gardevoir EX once again. Now, really quick, I know it might be a repeat of decks, but as new sets come out and deck lists change, I want to make sure you guys are caught up and there aren't old deck lists on the videos that you guys are referring to. So, everybody knows by now what Gardevoir does. Psychic Embrace. As often as you like during your turn, you may attach a basic energy from your discard pile to one of your psychic Pokemon. And if you do, you put 2 damage counters, and then you have Miracle Force for 190. Now, this is the typical list that we normally play, but the new inclusion is the Mew EX. Now, Mew EX has genome hacking. Choose one of your opponent's Pokemon's attacks and use it as this attack, and it has 180 HP. So, in the Gardevoir mirror, you can actually use the Mew EX to hit big numbers. As you can copy things like the Baby Guardy, or you can copy things like Zacian with the Storm Slash, or using the Brainwave attack. You can even copy the Miracle Force, hitting for damage. So overall, it's super solid, but on top of having a good attack, you also have Restart. Once during your turn, you may draw until you have 3 cards in hand. This is really good with Gardevoir, simply put, because if you get Iono'd to a low hand size, or you Iono yourself, it means that you can restart, draw until you have 3, and then it gives you the ability to start using your Kirlias with Refinement to draw through your deck, using the Shining Arcanas to draw through your deck, the Radiant Greninja. So it's just an extra card that, on top of being able to help you deal damage through attacks, you have an extra card that can add consistency, and on top of that, it has free retreat, so it's a good pivoting option if you need to promote something in order to retreat. Now, within this list, we are playing 4 stadiums. We are playing 2 Collapse Stadium and 2 Temple of Sinnoh. Temple of Sinnoh is good against Lugia just because Tyranitar can sometimes be awkward, so Temple of Sinnoh really shuts the deck down. And then you have Collapse Stadium just in case you need to, pivot yourself so that way your opponent can't take 2 prizes. You can actually get rid of something like a Gardevoir EX or a Mew EX and so on and so forth. Within this, we're also playing 10 Psychic Energy and 2 Reversal Energy and everything in between. So, as always, the list will be posted right here so you guys have a full clean view, as well as the list being posted within the description, just so that way you guys can copy and paste it into Pokemon Trading Card Game Live. As always, I want to thank you guys for all of the support. If you guys want to become members of the channel, unlock perks, be sure to click the link in the description, check out the tiers and what they have to offer, and if you want to become a member, feel free to join. As always, I want to thank you guys for everything. Do me a favor, if you enjoyed today's video, smash the like button, subscribe, turn on post notifications. Otherwise, with that being said, guys, I will catch you in the gameplay. Later. Alrighty, guys, getting into the very first game here with Gardevoir EX with the new 151 cards. We're going to see exactly what we can do as far as setting up consistently. As I mentioned in the intro, we do have Mew EX in here, so can give us a bit more of consistency as far as being able to thin our hand down in order to, draw some more cards. If we get Iono'd, we're still in a better spot. So, and speaking of Mew, we start with it, and it does have that free retreat, so we can actually benefit as much as possible off of everything. And my opponent's starting Manaphy, so there's quite a few things that they could be playing. First thing we'll play is that Battle VIP Pass. So we don't have any Ralts prized, which is good. We do have the ability to grab Mew as well as Radiant Greninja. Let's see if we can figure out what's prized. We have no Kirlias prized. We don't have a Guardy EX prized. We have 2 level balls in hand. We have the Fog Crystal. We open VIP. We do have a Collapse Stadium prized, and we have quite a few energy prized. We have 3 energy prized, so not looking too bad, but definitely is something to consider. So we'll use that Radiant Greninja. We'll get rid of the Psychic, just because Reversal could come in handy later. We do get another Battle VIP Pass, which means that we can start to set up the Ralt. We can retreat the Mew, go for the Mysterious Tail, get another Battle VIP Pass just so that way we can, thin some cards out of the deck. So we'll use that Battle VIP Pass, and honestly, we'll just play it as a 1-prizer game for right now. We do have the Mew EX, we do have access to Ultra Ball, and quite a few other things. We'll use the Fog Crystal now just to grab a Psychic Energy. That way we can attach it to one of the Ralts, just in case we do get something like that rare candy. But overall, not looking too bad. We're going to see what my opponent can do, grabbing Battle VIP Pass. And looks like we're playing the mirror match, so the nice thing about playing the mirror match is that with MewEX... Oh, we're not playing the mirror match. Okay. In hindsight, though, if we were playing the mirror match, we could actually use MewEX to copy genome hacking, which means that we could actually copy the attacks of Zacian or Gardevoir, which is nice. So my opponent is playing Zorobox, so they are going to be able to kind of set up, do as much as they can. Just passing here. So we do have access to 2 Kirlia, 3. Let's see. So we'll go Kirlia into Kirlia, and then we'll use the refinement. We're not really going to need reversals, so we can get rid of that. And then we can go Kirlia once more, discarding, drawing us Iono and Palpad. Can use the Mysterious Tail, potentially hitting a rare candy. Instead, we do hit Ultra Ball. Again, not too bad. Which means now we can Level Ball, grab the other Kirlia. And we can just keep setting up as much as we need. We can use the Refinement, getting rid of... we'll get rid of the Mirage Step Kirlia. We're not really going to need it. And there's the rare candy, so just a couple cards late. But definitely not too bad. And playing this in the one prizer race definitely isn't terrible. My opponent did use that, I think it's Arizu, which allows them to grab 3 evolution Pokemon. So there are the Kirlias, there is the Electivire. Electivire doing 50 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon with that high voltage current. So we are going to potentially need to get Manaphy out. If my opponent takes a knockout here. The 50 damage will be a little bit annoying to deal with, but it's definitely not the end of the world. So my opponent going Artisan. So if they do manage to take a knockout here, we can actually Artisan for the... we can Artisan for the Manaphy. So I don't think that there's going to be too much that my opponent can do as far as for us next turn. Thankfully, we do have, the ability to kind of just start taking knockouts. It's going to be a one prize race for a lot of the game, so we just need to make sure that we are all good. My opponent evolving into the Zoroark. They are going to be able to kind of set up how they want to. The best thing that we can probably do, we're going to have to take 50. Is it 50 on each bench, or is it 50 each of your opponent's Pokemon? Okay. So definitely not good, definitely not bad. It's just going to be more awkward than anything. Just because that 50 damage kind of is annoying to deal with, but... not the end of the world. There's the Jet Energy going into Zorua. And if we can get a boss, as well as use something like Iono, we should be pretty good. There is another Reversal Energy. Again, we're probably not going to need this, so we can use the Refinement. We'll get rid of the Ultra Ball right now, just to draw 2. And then... let's see. We could actually collapse Stadium and then not take a knockout this turn. And then next turn take away the collapsed, which means that we can grab Manaphy, which I don't hate. I think we'll figure that out. The first thing we'll do though is concealed cards for sure. Getting 2 more. And then we do have access to those refinements just to kind of get rid of some cards. And we don't want to draw later on. Use refinement once more. Getting rid of another psychic. Getting 2 more. Which means now what we can do, evolve into the Gardevoir EX. We can safely attach, use Ultra Ball, get rid of the Ralts. Cresselia might be good in order to kind of pick off those Kirlias. So we're probably not going to need Rare Candy as we are pretty set up right now. And then we can go Gardevoir. Gardevoir can use the Shining Arcana. And we do manage to get the Manaphy, which is good. We'll use Level Ball now, just to see what's in the deck. So we do have 2 Counter Stadiums still, in case we can't find another one. So it's not looking too terrible for us. So we'll use the Collapse Stadium, get rid of the Mew. My opponent gets rid of their Manaphy, so if we manage to get the Mew back out, we actually can spread 50 onto my opponent's board. And then from here, I don't want to take a knockout. I don't want to activate reversal for my opponent, so instead what I think we're going to do next turn is just draw some more cards and then play the Counter Stadium. If we do actually manage to get the Temple, we can actually shut off my opponent's special energies, so that'll be good. And then we also have access to Iono as well. My opponent discarding the Hisuian Basculin, search your deck for up to 2 basic Pokemon, put them onto your bench. And they also have the Slowbro. We do have to be a little bit careful of the Slowbro, as my opponent can take 2 prizes with that Twilight Inspiration. So we need to try and control my opponent's board, and then go from there. So there's another Zoroark coming down. And I don't think that there's too much my opponent can go into. They can potentially go into Slowbro in order to put us to sleep. But then we do have the ability to take a knockout. And then also find the Counter Stadium to play down the Manaphy. So it's just going to be a long, pretty much waiting game at this point. We do have 16 cards in deck, so we do have to make sure that we actually don't deck out. And my opponent goes for the pass. So we do draw a Arcana Gardevoir. So what we can do here, we can we'll use the Refinement, getting rid of the Rare Candy. And we do get the Temple of Sinnoh, which is good. Means that now we are going to be able to play down the Manaphy. And I don't think that there's too much we need to do. We can potentially start taking knockouts. So we can go into the Gardevoir here. We do have 3 energy in the discard. We're not going to need too much to start doing what we need to do. So we can just attach. We'll use Mysterious Tail just to potentially thin get that Fog Crystal. Which means now we can use the Psychic Embrace attached to the Mew. And then we can retreat into the Gardevoir, play the Temple of Sinnoh, play down the Manaphy, and then we can go for the Brainwave. And the nice thing about this is my opponent has to find a Counter Stadium in order to actually use any of those 3 energy attacks if they want to attach their very own reversal energy. So, and we do have access to a couple Super Rods as well, so we can actually shuffle back quite a bit of cards so that way we're not risking decking out, but just the sheer power of Gardevoir allowing us to actually set up how we need to. My opponent going for the Nest Ball. And depending on how my opponent's board goes, we actually might be able to copy the High Voltage Current in order to, you know, deal a ton of damage, including damage by recycling a Mew, or recycling the Mew EX. So, gonna see what my opponent wants to do here. They are down to 21 cards. They do have Artisan. And if my opponent KOs this Manaphy, we are going to have to find Super Rod, but it shouldn't be too detrimental for us. We do have access to Iono as well, and we do have Kirlia, so... My opponent going into the Electivire. If they have a boss's orders, they can actually KO the Manaphy. But there's not too much that they're going to be able to do. And they did play down the first stadium, so they are going to be out a couple of stadiums if we're able to, you know, continue the temple lock. Just waiting to see what my opponent wants to do here. This is mainly how the one prize game goes when you're playing with Gardevoir against anything else. There is the refinement. Getting rid of that Lost City. My opponent probably should have kept the Lost City. Unless they plan on boss and using Lost City on the Manaphy. And there's an Artisan, so my opponent is down 3 stadiums now. And they can attach the reversal, but it's not going to do too much for them. And should my opponent KO the Gardevoir EX with the Mightyena, as it does do 320 with weakness, we're still in a good spot to kind of just keep attaching and attacking. And we can actually rebuild the Guardi EXs, so not looking too bad for us. And if we need to, we can mess around with Kirlia as well. So there's the boss's orders, bringing up the Manaphy. There's the reversal. My opponent going to the high voltage current. And now if we find Super Rod, we can actually use my opponent's Artisan and then go from there. So we'll promote the Mew because we do have the pivot with the energy. We'll use the Fog Crystal just to double check that we do have the Super Rod in the deck, and we do. So we can use the Mew, looking at 6 cards, grabbing the Super Rod, which is perfect. That means now we can Super Rod, bring back the Manaphy, the Mew, and then we can also go for a Ralt. Now, I could go for the Mew and actually set up a couple of 50-50-50s with using the Electivire's high voltage current, which I don't hate. But then again, I have to bring it back to the active in order to keep taking multiple prizes. But I actually don't hate the idea of doing that. But right now, we'll just use the Artisan, grabbing us the Manaphy. And then we can attach to the Gardevoir. Use that Psychic Embrace in order to attach to the Mew and retreat. Can promote the Gardevoir, and then we can actually use one of these Shining Arcanas, getting a boss's orders. Let's see. My opponent is down 2 Zora. That's the 3rd one. We'll use Shining Arcana once more, potentially just getting us the stadium. And it doesn't, but it's not the end of the world. We're still in a good position. We're not going to lose within the next couple of turns. So what we could have done as well, or try to do, is we can go a Kirlia onto the Mightyena, just so that way if it damages itself, it does take a knockout on itself. But again, it's not the end of the world. There's another Zora coming down. There's a Nest Ball getting another Zorua. There's another Kirlia. Refinement going live. My opponent most likely playing 4 reversals. And if my opponent does KO the Guardi EX here, we do have the ability to bench another Ralt. And I think we do have another Guardi EX in the deck as well. So we can Iono my opponent. And if my opponent chooses to hit 160 here, they do damage themselves, which means that we can actually go for a KO with Kirlia if we wanted to. Just to kind of pin some damage everywhere. We do have the counter stadium as well. My opponent is down a Lost City, an Artisan. There's the other Artisan, so there is a chance that they play another one. But again, it's not looking too terrible. There's the boss's orders into the Gardevoir EX. There's the reversal. My opponent taking a knockout, which is fine. The one thing I don't think my opponent realizes is the fact that now that they're at 3, it means that, you know, we can kind of mess around with some math, but either way, we are taking a knockout. And this means that we'll be tied, so reversal's turned off for my opponent. We do have the Gardevoir EX, and we do have the Rare Candy, so we are good. And honestly, here, there's no point for me to go for the Temple right now, because either way, reversal is not going to be active. So, my opponent won't have a way to deal damage just yet. And the other thing that we do have to be wary of is the fact that my opponent can actually go into the, the Slowbro. So, we just need to make sure that, you know, if my opponent transforms this Zoroark, we can actually boss's orders the other one, take the KO, and then my opponent has no way to actually transform. So, going for refinement once more, getting rid of a Wug Trio. Now, if my opponent goes into the Wug Trio, we are in a bit of an awkward spot. But, again, it's not too bad. Reversal is not live right now, so it does not provide 3 energy. So it all comes down to what my opponent decides to switch into here. And we did get a Super Rod off of the prizes. So, ironically enough, if my opponent goes into Wug Trio, we actually could use Mew EX to copy Wug Trio and potentially deck out my opponent. Mew EX just opens up so many potential ideas that it's really nice. It really gives you, you know, the accessibility to kind of set up how you want. So my opponent does go for the Phantom Transformation. They haven't played a card like Super Rod yet, which means that if we're able to actually go after this Zoroark, there's not too much that they can do. So, my opponent going into the Flapple. So the Flapple can actually KO us, but it's not going to be quite, you know, detrimental enough. We do have the ability to KO the Zoroark, and then we do have the Gardevoir EX as well. We don't need the Gardevoir EX just yet, though. We can actually put ourselves in a good position where we just attack. We don't Rare Candy yet, so that way my opponent can't potentially get multi-prizes. And then we can take a knockout on this Flapple, and then there's not too much my opponent can do, I don't think. So, let's see. So we will go boss's orders onto this Zoroark. We'll go here. I'll use the Shining Arcana just to potentially get the counter stadium. We get the Rare Candy in the Zoroark. I don't think there's too much else I need to do. So if he goes here, I think what I'm going to do just to be safe, because I can always take a knockout with the Gardevoir EX if I need to, and if this Gardevoir gets KO'd, but just so my opponent doesn't do something like a Echoing Horn. Not that there was anything that they could potentially Echoing Horn, but we'll go for the Kirlia. Hit for 150. And this means that we shut my opponent off from actually being able to go into something like the Slowbro in order to just take 2 prizes and win the game. Now, if my opponent plays Super Rod, it is a bit, you know, awkward, but it seems as though they don't play Super Rod just yet. And with the rare candy into Gardevoir, it means that we have enough things that we should be a-okay as far as the next turn goes. And if we can get rid of all of my opponent's attackers, then there's really nothing that they can do. They could potentially boss the Mew and KO it with a Kirlia, but my plan next turn is to go into Cresselia, use the Gardevoir EX, and actually heal this 20 damage, just so that way I don't have to worry about anything else. So, my opponent taking a prize card here, and we can go into the Cresselia. We do get the Temple of Sinnoh, so we can actually go Temple of Sinnoh, rare candy into the Gardevoir, and then let's see how many energy in here. We do have 9. I am gonna Super Rod back 2 energy, just because it means that should Manaphy or Radiant Greninja get bossed up for whatever reason, we do have the ability to actually deal with it. So, we're gonna be tied on prizes. My opponent's reversal is not going to be active, so we can actually safely Lunar Blast here. My opponent won't be able to KO anything. We could even bench the Zacian Attach, which might be the best way to go about it. It does give us 4 energy left. That would mean there's 2. I think what we're going to do now, though, is just go for the Lunar Blast for 110. And assuming that there's nothing I'm missing, my opponent should not be able to take a knockout here. And we do actually get a Psychic off of the prizes, which means that we can safely retreat any and everything that gets put into play. If my opponent plays a big body down, we do have the ability to boss his orders, so not looking too bad. If this doesn't showcase what the Kirlia engine does, I don't know what does. My opponent has 14 cards in hand, 3 cards in deck. We have 11 cards in hand, 4 cards in deck. It's all simply because of Kirlia and what it can do as far as drawing cards within the deck. It opens up so much potential. So there is a Miriam. My opponent going to be able to shuffle any and anything they want back as far as Pokemon. And they do get to draw, so there's the Nest Ball, grabbing the Zora, but my opponent is going to be 1 turn behind, as we do have the Lunar Blast to take a KO on anything. We have the Temple of Sinnoh to shut everything off, and that's pretty much it. So, I'm going to cut the gameplay here, just because it is a 25-minute video. I don't want you guys to be, consumed with an hour-long video, but again, if you guys do enjoy today's video, do me a favor, smash the like button, subscribe, turn on post notifications. Otherwise, with that being said, I will catch you guys in tomorrow's video. Later.